My name is Eric. Welcome to Desert Pitfall, State of the Game, Part 1. I am a Year 1 student at BUas, Breda University. This is our Block A project. We have to recreate Pitfall, Pitfall 2, or Pitfall Mayan Adventure. I've chosen the last one, Mayan Adventure, so it should be challenging but hopefully pretty fun. We have 8 weeks to complete the project, so there should be 8 of these videos. And each of these videos will be kind of a high-level overview of where we are at in the progress. So just kind of what are the big components, kind of how they interact, what they're doing, but not too much detail. And then hopefully I'll make other videos going into detail of each component on kind of how it's working, maybe covering the math behind it. We'll see how that goes. So right now we're looking at the main game loop. And before we go any further, we'll just look at how the game looks. So this is our current state. We have a little dew that can move. We've got a tile map drawn to the screen. We've got collision boxes. We have collision because we are walking on a surface. There is gravity. If I touch something, it just shoots me to the top of itself. So you get a little elevator effect, and then we kind of float down. So kind of funny if you hit the edge because poof, you go like flying all the way to the top. So that's where we're at. So we're going to go through just this part. Everything else is kind of debug. And look at the components, talk a little bit about them, and then be done. Hopefully keep it short and sweet. So here's our keyboard manager, and as you can guess, he just keeps track of if a key has been pressed, is pressed, or has been released. And then we go to our player. He doesn't have much going on. He's basically just a game object base class. He's got a little bit of functionality to handle the keyboard manager, or at least get movement, and that's about it. So we update him, and then right here we have our collision manager, and it's just axis aligned bounding boxes. So this is AABB, and you just make sure everyone's colliding or not colliding, lets them know what they've hit. We'll skip the staging sprite just for a second, and we'll go to the camera. This is just a big rectangle following the player around, and it actually acts as a collider. So when it hits other game objects, it tells them, hey, you're going to be visible this frame. And then we go straight into the renderer, and all he does is loop over the game objects, which are in a pool, and just checks if they're visible or not. If they're visible, they get drawn, and they're going to get drawn relative to the camera's position. So we're going to go from world space to local space. And then we go back to the staging sprite, and what the render is doing is actually drawing to the staging screen, which is the image reference for the sprite. And the staging screen is the same size as the camera, and it's hidden. So what will happen is we draw everything at a 1-to-1 scale to the staging screen because this is a very small game as far as assets. It's a 16 by 16 pixel tile. Everything's relative to that. It's very small. You don't want to play it at that scale. So at the very end, after we've drawn everything to our staging screen, everything that we know is going to be in view to the player, we then draw that scaled to the real screen. And so if you want to just look real fast at behind the scenes, this is kind of what it looks like. This isn't the actual staging screen. I had to kind of cobble this together because the staging screen would just look like the big screen but small. So this is kind of the level as a whole and your position in it and the camera around you. So we're kind of looking at it, I guess you would say this is the world space view. I'm not really sure what the term would be. And you can see you ride the elevator and you come floating back down. So everything in the big red box is actually getting rendered to the staging screen, which we then scale up to the real screen. So that's kind of all the components. And then I just want to talk about the collision manager really fast just to go step by step of what it's doing because I think it's really cool. All right, so we start here and we just sort all of our boxes along the x-axis. So smallest, or not smallest, but the smallest x value to largest x value. And then all we do is find the overlaps. So you just start with that first one, you find out what it's touching, and then you move to the second one and find out what it's touching. And it's really easy because you've already lined them up along their x-axis, so you just go down the line. And then finally, and you pair these up. And then finally, you take all those pairs and you decide, do they touch on the y-axis? And if they are touching, then you just tell each other that, hey, you ran into this guy, and you let them handle it from there. So that's kind of everything going on. Take a look at this, kind of flip back to right. So now we're looking at within the big camera. This is, I don't know, the camera's local space, but scaled up. So I've got two big projects I'm going to work on this week. We're going to get a command pattern implemented for the game loop, and then hopefully some type of state machine for the player, because I need to be able to climb vines and ride on a zip line. So those are those are the two big projects this week, and hopefully on the next state of the game video, part 2, we'll see those in action. So hopefully I'll make a few videos this week on the details over really what's going on under the hood for the renderer, camera, and collision manager, and maybe the keyboard manager, but we'll see. And yeah, I'll keep you guys updated. All right, later.